Well, hello everyone. This is Rod Stellmuller, and this is another Tech Talk Tuesday. We've got a good session for you today. Shahzad and I are going to go over multi-cloud networking, security, and compliance. This has become a really big subject. We see a lot of our customers leveraging the Aviatrix platform to really deliver on some of the capabilities, the security requirements that they have, enterprise security requirements that often require compliance with corporate or regulatory um, policies, for instance, like PCI, or just simply that their companies are putting in security policies to make their security posture better. So let's go through a couple of introductory slides, some things about what we're seeing out in the marketplace in terms of challenges that CISOs and CIOs, CTOs, network security architects, and so forth are finding out there. One of the big things is that the role of network security architect, which has always been important on-prem, has become even more important as companies move to the cloud. And we're seeing those roles be promoted to even sitting at the business table because this becomes such a critical aspect of building out building out their environments. Attacks are on the rise and they're not going to go down. I think you see them in the news all of the times. And part of the reason that this is happening is that there is a major increase in complexity that's happening here. While we always talk about simplifying things, generally speaking, when you move into a multi-cloud environment, the complexity goes up and the opportunity for human errors goes up. And human errors has been the bane of security teams for the history of computing. And so I think we're getting to a point where maybe we can start to overcome some of those human errors as we leverage automation and some of the intelligence that a centralized controller can offer. So cloud sometimes gets positioned as being more secure, but it's actually not immune to these attacks, and we've seen it. And things are growing, right? Cloud is expected to be 10 times larger in terms of the number of workloads that were delivered in on-prem environments, and it's going to happen 1,000 times faster. As you all know, you can spin up what is equivalent to a data center in a matter of minutes that used to take months. So things are going to grow, and they're going to grow very, very fast. The overall security posture that I was talking about to ensure corporate and regulatory compliance is really a must. And this is some of the things that we're going to talk about our customers being able to do with Aviatrix. A few other things that really need to be taken into consideration is that apps and business requirements are really the thing that is going to dictate multi-cloud. On the on-prem environments, architects and network people had the ability to tell the business how they were going to operate and what applications they were going to use. As we move into cloud, it's really being driven by the business, right? Some applications simply operate in one cloud better than they operate in the other. So that's the first, maybe initial driver for a multi-cloud environment. But we're also seeing it being driven by the customers. Some customers want you to be delivering your services actually out of a particular cloud because for whatever reason, they don't want it in another cloud. An example might be a large retail company who really doesn't want all of their data in Amazon, for example. And another big one we see is mergers and acquisitions. So, all of a sudden the business decides that they're acquiring a company for its technology or for its customer base, but that company that's being acquired operates out of a different cloud than maybe you're operating in today. And so the ability to be ready to expand and absorb that technology that's running in a different cloud is very important, and we see that happening all the time. Um, So a lot of times security and compliance is positioned as a shared responsibility by the cloud providers. The bottom line is it's not a shared responsibility, it's your responsibility. So you need to make sure that that the security and you're meeting the compliance in the way that the corporate and regulatory policies require you to. We also see a lot of managed services and SaaSes that operate as a black box. So you want to be able to open that up and be able to have visibility into what's going on. You have understaffed teams that have a skills gap and a learning curve. Maybe they're experts in AWS, but your multi-cloud environment is now having you expand into Azure and Google. And so you need to be able to have solutions that can go across all of those. Time to market shortcuts often cause problems because people are trying to get services to market faster, get to revenue faster, but that is where the human errors come into play. Now, whether you hear about being hacked or not being hacked, in the end, the audit is still going to happen. So you have to be prepared for that audit and the audit team to come in and have the proof that the auditors are looking for that you're meeting the compliance. And one of the things that we also see is that sometimes people don't know where to get started. You don't want to boil the ocean necessarily with everything that's going on, but there are business strategies that are driving the cloud strategy. And then those are driving some short-term kind of operational requirements and longer-term strategic requirements. The nice thing with the Aviatrix platform is we see a lot of our customers starting small and going after those specific requirements, for instance, corporate or regulatory security mandates. So if you have to comply with PCI, you need solutions like an FQDN filtering capability that's easy to deploy, easy to manage, especially across a multi-cloud environment, and be able to deliver that quickly so that you can satisfy those short-term needs. And then oftentimes that evolves and people recognize that now they have the ability to do consistent security and compliance across multi-clouds, that they have the ability to do visibility, observability, and support those audits I was talking about. They get advanced security controls that maybe they didn't have from the native network or native cloud constructs. And then that often leads into more strategic capabilities like agility and automation and being able to do infrastructure as code and deliver these security requirements across multiple cloud environments. So that multi-cloud readiness and optionality. And then finally, just being able to create a governance model that makes sure that all of those things come together and maintain and become consistent. So let me do a little bit for those of you who are new about what Aviatrix is, and I'll touch on, especially for this tech talk, on the areas that are focused on security. And then after that, we will go into some detail and Shahzad will be able to drill into some of the capabilities that I talked to at a high level. Everything we do is really around a multi-cloud network architecture. And this is where we deliver enterprise class visibility, advanced networking and security capabilities, and multi-cloud optionality. And all of this is really based around a multi-cloud transit, which is the foundation of all of this, because it's where cloud access connects in, how your branch offices or your data centers are connecting in. And it also supports the application layer, how those applications are application environments are connecting together, both in a single cloud and across multiple clouds. So the transit becomes the foundation of how all of this is delivered. And so this is where we deliver our cloud network platform, so that we can deliver those advanced networking services, advanced security services, operational visibility that you need across all of the clouds, and the ability to bring our partners and do service insertion and security chaining, for example, bringing in a next generation firewall from Palo Alto Networks or Fortinet or Checkpoint, working with custom partners like F5 so that we can do SSL decryption in a service chain, for example. And so if we look at the platform itself, there are some main components here. Number one is the Aviatrix controller, and you can think about that as the brain of the operations because it knows everything that's going on across the multi-cloud environment. Now it's talking, of course, to our Aviatrix gateways that, as I mentioned, are delivering the advanced networking and security services and become that backbone Aviatrix transit. But it's also talking to the native cloud APIs. So the APIs that are offered publicly from Azure and AWS and Google and Oracle. But these are providing those basic cloud networking constructs, but we can take advantage of those and we can build out the architecture leveraging some of those basic constructs as well as delivering the advanced capabilities through our gateways. This allows us to create this cloud network abstraction layer that our multi-cloud Terraform provider can take advantage of. So this is how we're able to create, for instance, one single infrastructure as code module that's going to be able to work across multiple cloud environments and deliver this repeatable architecture that I'll talk about in a minute here. And then finally, it feeds all of this great data and information into our visualization platform, number 4 here, the Aviatrix Copilot, so that you can do things like look at network flows and drill down into exactly what ports and protocols and what communication is going there in order to be able to troubleshoot application issues or identify anomalies where traffic should not be flowing, for instance, and visualize that so you can drill in and find out exactly what's happening. And then also building out a multi-cloud dynamic topology map, meaning that it changes as things are added or taken away in your cloud environments, which happens all the time. This stays up to date and you know exactly what your environment looks like and can drill in. I think Shahzad is going to do a little bit of a demo of this later on in the presentation. So let's build this out a little bit and see how it all comes together. And one thing I want to highlight is that you'll see some simple things in these drawings that look here, a hub and spoke architecture with double lines representing that it's got an equal cost multipath type environment that's going between our gateways. But there's a lot of technology that's going on inside of that simple picture. So in this case, you can see in each one of the VPCs, we've put a gateway in different availability zones. We have a full mesh, equal cost, multipath, high availability, active network going on inside, for instance, AWS on the left here. And we do exactly the same thing in Azure on the right-hand side. And we carry that full mesh connectivity across whatever you're using as your connectivity between clouds, whether that's going across the internet or you're leveraging some private interconnect like Equinix or PurePort, or simply connecting a direct connect or an express route into your own data center and using the data center as the backbone between the two. But having that ability, there's a lot of technology that goes into these simple pictures. So we represent that in a very simple way, but as I mentioned, a lot going on there. End-to-end encryption, leveraging the same underlying infrastructure as the cloud providers use for their redundancy and reliability, but adding a little bit more to that you have full visibility into and have the ability to control. And the controllers you see up in the top left there is really supporting an always-on high availability environment where it does self-healing and auto remediation if it sees anything going on with one of those gateways in the equal cost multipath type environment, and it can spin up a new one if it sees problems. So as we build this out, it always starts in one region, one cloud, simple architecture here, but very quickly expands to multiple regions in most of our customers. And then of course that can expand to multi-cloud. So in this picture, you can see that repeatable hub and spoke architecture that goes across clouds that now can be spun up and have this consistent operational model, consistent security model that goes across all of these different cloud environments. And that's very important from a security standpoint to have that consistent, repeatable model. It actually helps you with the human error problem that many people are running into. We can do high performance encryption. So while everything is end to end encrypted, giving you encryption of data in motion, sometimes you need additional bandwidth. And in most cases, you're only getting 1.25 gig of IPsec encryption in the cloud or between your data center and the cloud. We can offer up to wire speed, up to 20 gig connections across your, actually, I think it's 25 gig now, across your direct connect or express route from the data centers into the cloud, and up to 90 gig of IPsec encryption inside the cloud for those important connections that maybe need that kind of throughput capability, but still remaining encrypted and private. We can also do multi-cloud network segmentation, which is a really important security feature, and the ability to keep that consistent connection policy going across multiple clouds, either in a single cloud or across multiple clouds, where, for instance, you can see here green dots and blue dots are segmented. Maybe that's your production and your dev environments. And you can also have shared environments. For instance, the purple dot might be a shared service that all of the different VPCs or VNets can have access to that application. Service insertion and chaining for security services, bringing next generation firewalls, as I mentioned, being able to do SSL decryption and then service chain through next generation firewalls so that you can bring those on-prem security policies into the cloud and maintain the same architecture from a security standpoint that you had on-prem. And then, of course, visibility is key. So having the ability to see what's going on, not having a black box environment, being able to understand what's happening in your environment, where there might be anomalies in terms of traffic that you need to be looking at. And as I mentioned, I think Shahzad's going to show you a quick demo of that a little bit later. And then, of course, once you have this backbone, our customers want to be able to do secure cloud access from remote offices or from remote users. They want to be able to do secure ingress and egress. This is often for policies like PCI, being able to filter the traffic that's able to go out to the internet so that it's only going to very specific URLs that are well known and allowed, so that it keeps you from being able to establish a connection out to a rogue service and start exporting data, for example. And then, of course, we provide cloud native capabilities. Now, some of these are security services, some of them aren't. But for instance, you can integrate in AWS with something like CloudWatch or CloudGuard. What is it? Oh, Guard Duty. Boy, we can't remember all these names, but Guard Duty, and having the ability to import some of those malicious IP addresses and make them part of the filtering service. So with that, I want to turn over to Shahzad. Shahzad, I'll stop sharing and let you drill into some of the details of some of the things that I was talking about.
All right, thanks, Rod. Appreciate it. So, guys, Rod covered a lot of technologies and gave you the overview of Aviatrix platform. Now let's talk about specifically the security and compliance aspects. And these are some of the areas that I'm highlighting here on the screen, right? So we talked about the high performance encryption. We talked about site to cloud, the network segmentation. All those areas are extremely important when it comes to protecting your cloud infrastructure. What we have done, we have compiled all this knowledge from working with a lot of customers and also talking to a lot of customers in this ebook that we recently published. And I have the link here down below, which we'll post it in the chat window, and we'll also provide you as part of the YouTube recording. So I would highly appreciate you guys take a look there, because it's really concise, is to the point, that will help you achieve your security and compliance goals. So let's talk about this encryption, which is, in my opinion, the number one area which you need to focus when it comes to providing the compliance, governance, and security for your infrastructure. Because a lot of time these hacks are happening from within or from outside, and people don't realize that when you're building these infrastructure, how important it is to encrypt, because you are putting your workload in AWS, Azure, you are trusting the cloud service provider in that sense. But like Rod says in the beginning, it's your responsibility. At the end, if something goes wrong, you are the person responsible or in the line. So providing this encryption is extremely important. So when you go and do that with IPsec, for example, which is a standard technology, in the cloud, you only get 1.25 gig throughput, and that's not enough, right? So you need high performance encryption that can give you line rate performance between your instances. And when you talk about connecting these infrastructure from to the on-prem world, you purchase Direct Connect 10 gig. You try to encrypt it because by default it's not encrypted, and you only get 1.25. That's not good. So we have technology like Cloud N, which is a hardware appliance or could be virtual that you deploy on-prem and it connects to your cloud, could be AWS, could be Azure, and that gives you the line rate performance, right? Because this link that you see here in the middle, you might be deploying your resources in Equinix, could be going through colo location, or you could have your data center, doesn't really matter. There is a middleman there, which is your provider, and you need to make sure that this link or this connectivity is also encrypted. So that actually helps you achieve compliance a lot faster. And another theme I have seen is that when I've talked to customers, they would tell me that, yeah, I have my dev workload, they are not really encrypted, I don't really care, but my production is all encrypted. I make sure that TLS is there, it's HTTPS and things of that nature. So I'll take care of that encryption over there. But that's not a good approach, because you will notice that these recent attacks or attacks in general, when they happen, they start from very beginning. They start from the dev workload or from the non-production type workload while you are actually developing the code. And then they inject their DLLs or their code, and that becomes your production later on. So you don't even realize that there is a time bomb ticking in your non-production workload, which is now moving into production, which is encrypted with TLS or whatever. And you already have that problem there, right? So it's very important that you encrypt all the traffic going in and out of your network or to other cloud, for example. And like Rod mentioned, we have this technology that provides you this high throughput line rate capabilities when it comes to providing this encryption in the cloud, across the cloud. So how do we actually do that? So if you look at the software model that they have in the cloud, when you try to build this IPsec tunnel between two software instances or virtual machines, they only utilize one single CPU core to build that tunnel. So you might have a very large instance there with 16 virtual CPUs or whatnot, but unfortunately, these guys will not be able to build the tunnel using all virtual CPU core. So that's why they're limited to 1.25 Gbps. Now, the technology that we have, the patented technology that we offer to our customer, builds these tunnels utilizing all virtual CPU core. And that is the reason we can actually provide you this high performance encryption. Okay, so it's a scale up based architecture where you increase the size of your instance and you get more throughput from it. So if you have, let's say, 8 virtual CPU cores, will build 8 tunnels. If you have 16, then 16, and then you move up, and then we can start building more tunnels. But building tunnel is just one piece of the puzzle. There is a technology behind it that makes sure that from the application point of view, from outside, it just looks like a single tunnel to you. So internally, we are doing a lot of things. We are doing the ECMP. We are making sure the traffic is actually properly encrypted when it is going towards the other side. We are decrypting it and sending it to the other location if it needs to go there. The next topic I want to talk about is egress FQDN, right? So these applications, when you look at them, they are microservices application. Serverless is becoming extremely important. And what is happening that these new breed of applications, they need to talk to the external world. They need to talk to the API gateway, some SaaS services. They need to go pull the GitHub code because it's the CI/CD world now. You need to talk to these external services. So there is a lot of increase for the traffic that is going out towards the internet, the egress traffic, as we call it. Now, if you look at the traditional method of protecting that traffic, you would use the security group, the native security groups, which are based on the IP port and protocol. But that is not enough. That will not satisfy your auditor requirement or your compliance requirement. Why? Because you need to provide a filtering based on the FQDN. Okay, so you need to say that I'm only allowed to go out towards github.com or office365.com, and rest is blocked because it is a zero trust world. You need to make sure you have the zero trust. You don't trust anybody going out, but just these URLs that are allowed to go out. Now, what I have seen in this space is customers sometimes they go with the squid proxy option, which is not optimal. Why? Because now you are dealing with those discrete entities, those discrete EC2 instances or virtual machines that has no control plane. There is no policy-based architecture so that you can say that, yeah, this is a policy I want to apply to my 5 squid instances and whatnot. So that is lacking there. So that does not solve the problem for the enterprises. Yeah, it might be okay for a small uh, some company out there with maybe 2 or 3 VPCs. But when you are talking about hundreds of VPCs, that cannot scale at all. So that's the reason the solution that we came out with allows you to create those policies, right? And then when you create those policies, you have a choice to create a base policy, which is zero trust. And then you say that, yeah, these are the only URLs I want to send out to, or these are the URLs that my application workload can have access to. Now, if you look at the egress FQDN, there are different options when it comes to actually designing it. And I'm only showing you 2 here, but there's a lot more you can do because the software is an architecture is extremely flexible, right? So if you have a very specific requirement, come to us, come talk to us, and we'll help you there. But on the top right-hand side, you see a very popular model, which we call the distributed model. What happens that in this model, let's say you have your workload running in AWS and Azure, and you are being pressured to provide compliance, we can quickly help you achieve that. Okay, and we can actually help you in within hours, right? And this is non-disruptive. So you keep running your virtual machines or your EC2 instances there. What we're gonna do, we're gonna just drop the Aviatrix gateway in the VPC, and that will become your exit point for the internet traffic, right? It will also do the natting so that your traffic is going out, so you don't really need a native NAT gateway. And this will also provide you additional capabilities, what I mentioned before, the policy-based egress FQDN. So you create the rule, you apply it to specific VPCs or set of VPCs, and the other set of VPCs, they will follow a different set of rule. So this is a non-disruptive deployment that we offer to our customer. And within an hour, you have this compliance um, done basically, right? So that's one model. Now in the bottom, there's a second model, which I'm seeing getting very popular because what it does is it allows you to send all the traffic from VPCs, for example, to a centralized location. And then from this central location, you go out towards the internet, right? So in this case, you can see you are not only providing an enhanced security posture, but this is also cost optimized. Because in this case, you are deploying gateways in each VPCs and VNet, but here you are not. So you are just putting the gateways in the central location. You create the policy like you created before, and that's how you can achieve the compliance. And this option also allows you to build the proper network architecture, what Rod mentioned in the beginning. It allows you to have this transit backbone that is not only providing you egress FQDN, but all the other features, the enhancements, the traffic engineering, the control plane, the resiliency that we talked about. And then the extension into other cloud becomes seamless and consistent, right? So that's what it offers. Okay, now to talk about the layer 7 inspection or service insertion. So this is another area where you guys need to invest to achieve compliance, provide proper governance model, Why? Because you need to see traffic beyond layer 3. You need to go deep into the packet and at the layer 7 level and see what's going on within your network. So we make it extremely easy for our customers. So we follow the same transit-based architecture, hub and spoke architecture, but we make it extremely simple and automated to not only deploy our infrastructure, the policies and everything, but also we take care of deploying and managing and providing the health and everything for the third-party partners that we have. Right, so you can just launch the controller. From the controller, you can deploy these firewalls in active fashion. Okay, and then you can have the scale up or scale out model where you can deploy a number of these firewalls, or you can increase the instance size of these firewalls. And then with that model, you're not talking about those IPsec issues or the restrictions that comes with building those tunnels between these virtual instances. So there is no source matting that we are doing here. So that actually providing the visibility, the compliance that you need for your traffic flows. And then with that, you have all the advantages of getting the packet capture, the flow log, the troubleshooting that we provide through Copilot or from within the controller. And this is all automated. And you can actually terraform the entire topology or entire design I'm showing here. So it's all automatic without any human errors and ready to go basically. And then the security domain concept allows you to create the policies. So you can specify that this is my prod VPC or VNet. That is the most important workload I have in the system. And this must be going through this firewall. So that is one way of doing it. But obviously, like I said, this is an extremely flexible architecture. What I'm showing you here is this next generation firewall deployment or service insertion now divided into two different centralized location. So one location is here in the bottom for your east-west traffic. So the traffic happening within your cloud infrastructure. And then the second one on top here is for the egress or for internet-based traffic. Because oftentimes your firewall policies or even teams are different when it comes to dealing with the egress traffic versus the internal traffic. So that's the flexibility that we have in the platform. And all the other benefits I talked about are still applicable here, right? So there is no source netting. We are not running any BGP protocol. It is a scale out. It is all active. And that will help you achieve the compliance really easily. Okay, now let's talk about the user VPN. So we know that we are living in the era of COVID-19, right? People are working from home. People are not going to offices. And what's happening in return is basically now we are putting extra burden on our IT infrastructure because everyone is logging in from remote locations. There are a lot of meetings happening on Zoom. There are uh, basically everything I would say is happening online. So now these users, employees, the contractors, your partners, they need to access your resources in the cloud. And while majority of the workload is moving into the cloud, there is no point of sending those remote users to your data center location and then have them go to the cloud, right? So the model that we propose for proper compliance and for auditing purposes is to provide a solution, which is our Aviatrix Smart SAML-based user VPN solution that allows you to connect these users to your resources, but in a policy way with the proper profile, with proper segmentation. And like before, this is the power of the control plane. The centralized controller, the Aviatrix controller, will manage and program and will give you this all in one shot, basically all automated. So there are no human errors, right? So you control everything that you see here. So you create the transit-based architecture, you deploy the gateways from the controller, and then you create the VPCs. Now we will take care of deploying the native constructs like the load balancer so that you have the scale out architecture. So in case your load increases, we will automatically deploy these firewalls or these gateways so that your users that are coming in, they have the proper experience, right? And then, like I said before, you create the profiles You have the partner, and then partners are only allowed to go to blue. Okay, that's how you do it. And for contractors, that's a different access area. That's a different compliance model your company follows. So you can actually achieve that. And this is all OpenVPN SAML based. So it's not like you have a traditional legacy client VPN or user VPN system. This is talking about the next generation advanced technologies that you can embed into this architecture. So before you even go to your workload, you are forced to go to this ID provider, identity provider, and you have this extra authentication or security built in with the multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication that will make sure that your resources are secure when they are coming in and accessing your precious data there. So we partner with a lot of vendors there like Duo, Okta, and others. And this list here is very small because virtually speaking, any provider that supports SAML is supported by Aviatrix, right? So that's the example in one cloud, but obviously, since you're building this architecture, you have this multi-cloud topology. With the same transit-based, hub and spoke-based architecture, you can extend this functionality into other cloud without you re-architecting anything, right? So the users are now coming in, they can come in to AWS, they can go to GCP or Azure resources, or if your policy wants them to come to GCP for some reason, that's the option. That's another option that you can provide through this architecture, right? And if they need to access the data center resources, obviously they can go to data center once they are in the cloud. And I think this model makes sense because you're already sitting on the internet. You come into the cloud through the internet. That's like your layer, the internet layer. And then if you need to access some resources in data center, you can go this way in secure and high performant manner. Now, a lot of time these employees are traveling. These days they are sitting at home, but obviously COVID-19 will be lifted. And then when they're traveling, the system or the architecture will automatically detect the location. So it's a geolocation aware solution that we offer. And then based on your location, you will be redirected to the closest gateway or POP, if you want to call it. And then you will have the optimal performance and throughput from there on. So one more thing I wanted to mention that we made it extremely simple for our customers because we realized that there is a learning curve for customers when they want to build this in the cloud. So what we have done, we are providing you a turnkey solution with our Docker and Terraform-based integration or automation. So all you need to do, you just need to launch this Docker container and provide some information. And in the background, we will do automatically everything for you. So you don't need to install any Terraform or you need to learn all this technology that I talked about, although it will become important for you to do that anyways, but just to satisfy the requirement for the compliance or for the security, you can have this turnkey solution and have everything done within hours, I would say. So it will create all these users, the VPCs, the gateways I talked about, and will just work seamlessly in any cloud of your choice. And I have the link here in the bottom that you can take a look. So we talked a lot about automation. We were talking about Terraform, and to be honest, there are some customers, or majority of our customers, that don't even touch our UI. So their interaction is all through the Terraform because we are the official Terraform provider. So for enterprises, it is extremely easy to achieve compliance because now they're not dealing with multiple Terraform providers. They're only dealing with Aviatrix as a Terraform provider, and then everything is just falls in place. So you have one cloud or you have multiple cloud, doesn't really matter. You have single Terraform and you automate everything through that, right? So you are in Azure, you're creating the constructs, your security construct, networking constructs, doesn't really matter. We take care of all that. Another thing I noticed that a lot of customers, especially if you're coming from the legacy background, you don't have the Terraform practice within your team. But still, this can actually help you in terms of network as a code, because now in the on-prem world, maybe you're using Cisco routers and whatnot. You do show run, you do show startup, right? To see what you're running configured. How exactly are you going to do it in the cloud? There is no show run in the cloud. So we provide you this show run or show startup config in the cloud by allowing you to export everything that you have done in Terraform. So that will become your version control. So you can have a copy of your entire network as a code or as a text file sitting somewhere, right? So that's the export functionality that we provide from our controller-based architecture. Okay, now let's talk about the auditing. Obviously, when audit comes or as part of your compliance and governance model, you need to provide logs to your auditor. Okay, so the controller that we have, the architecture that we have allows you to export logs in standard format like syslog or netflow. And then, like I said before, we partner with a lot of these logging providers like Datadog, Splunk, or Sumo Logic. So you can export these logs to these places as well. But if you ask me, I would actually recommend you to go with the Aviatrix Copilot. Why? Because when you're shipping those logs, you're sending it to Splunk or Datadog. Now you need to kind of filter the noise yourself. You need to create those widgets, your application, so you can see exactly what you want to see. So we made it simple for you through Aviatrix Copilot, because we talked to a lot of networking and security folks and our customers, and they said that, you know what, this is what I want to see. When you send me the log, or when I see the log in these logging places, I have to filter it. It's like, it's too much, right? So we said, okay, we'll take care of that. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a demo of Copilot that will help you understand how we exactly do that. So the first thing I would say that when you log into this Copilot, you see this dashboard, right? So this will give you your compliance view, so to speak. If you are the CTO or CIO, you are higher up, this is what you're going to see. You'll see exactly the resources being deployed and their health and their status, right? So if they're up, if they're down, what's happening there. The second thing that we do, we just provide you this topology, right? This is the automated topology that is building in real time. So there is no way you can skip something, right? Because the paper topology or something Visio, someone has to go and then put these, uh, the icons there. No, that's not the case here. This is building automatically for you. And not only that, it has a lot of things that you can use for compliance purposes. For example, you can click on this show unmanaged VPC, and it will show you quickly what are the rogue VPCs out there in your system, right? So you can say, oh wow, these are the rogue VPCs. Why they're not part of my architecture? So that means they're doing things independently. So that's not good, right? And then we'll also show you the latency between those gateways, those resources. And then we'll also show you the heat map of the traffic that is coming into your network or going towards the internet or whatever, right? And then we'll show you the hot areas with the color coding here, like, oh yeah, this is where majority of my traffic is happening. Why my traffic is going out there in this some island over there, maybe it's Hawaii or something, but doesn't really matter. You get the idea that this is your way or view into the security and compliance. Because another thing is that how would you protect something that you cannot see or identify? So that becomes very important for you to have deeper look into your traffic patterns. Right, and then we have trends, which will show you the anomaly if there are spikes, so we can quickly detect the anomaly within your network as well. Now let's talk about this app IQ. Now, when you have a troubleshooting situation or when you are worried about the compliance between two instances, what you're going to do, you're going to come here, you select source and destination virtual machines, and you run the test, submit, right? So once you do that, it's going to build this nice looking topology for you. And that's your compliance view. That's your security view to know exactly what path this virtual machine is taking when it's going from left to right. Right? So you can see the latency and all the things that are in between. So their performance, their spikes, their security group, their ACLs and whatnot. Okay. So that was a quick demo of Copilot. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move towards the end of my presentation. So these are the things that we talked about. The most important thing you need to remember that although your pains are tactical, they're short-term, you need to solve them with a strategic solution, with an architecture-based approach, right? So don't take shortcuts. And there are a number of different areas that I have highlighted here. These are the things that you need to think about when it comes to providing the compliance and security for your infrastructure. Over to you, Rod.
All right, thanks, Shahzad. That was great. We're going to pop up a little poll here, so please go ahead and answer the poll while we're going through some of the Q&A here. We always like to get this feedback. It helps us understand if this is the right level of content and some of the other things that you might be interested in. We did have one question here that was about can the FQDN list, the fully qualified domain name list, be referenced from Terraform as some sort of JSON entry or a console, or is it only through the console? Tamaz, you want to give that a shot?
Sure thing. So indeed, as Shahzad was highlighting, everything that you do from the controller UI, you can also do from Terraform. And this is one of those cases. So definitely, if you would like to reference the list of those domain names programmatically in Terraform, you are more than welcome to do so. It's super simple.
Okay, great. Yeah, if anybody else has questions, please feel free to pop those into the Q&A panel while we finish up here. But I want to talk quickly about how you might want to take some next steps. If there was anything that you heard here that you want to drill in a little bit more deeply on, please send us an email at info@aviatrix.com. That's probably the easiest way with your question, and we'll get it to the right person. We can get a solution architect on the line with you and talk through it. We also do a lot of customer sessions for architectural design. So if you have some questions and you'd like to get to your team together or something like that, and we can walk through some specifics to your environment, we're happy to do that, as well as help you launch a product if you need to. You can launch the Aviatrix controller and build out a multi-cloud network architecture in a matter of an hour, and we're happy to help you do that. You can build it out, try some things, tear it back down, whatever you want to do. So it's very easy to try the Aviatrix solutions. And then the last thing I'll mention here is the Aviatrix ACEs. We now have about 10,000 people who have gone through the ACE training online, the first level associate training. And you can find out more about that at aviatrix.com/ACE. The self-paced class is about 4 to 6 hours long online. You can do it, you get a certification and so forth. It's great. And then we have next levels, like for instance, the professional, which is a 3-day course, and you can find out more about that on the website. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the upcoming Tech Talks. We always like to have you guys on the Tech Talks. On February 2nd, we'll actually be introducing a new Aviatrix employee who came from Citibank or from Citigroup. He was the director of global network engineering at Citigroup, and I think he's got some really good insights about how customers like Citigroup think about their network infrastructure and why he decided to actually now come to Aviatrix after 20 years at Citigroup. Should be a really interesting tech talk. And then on February 10th, we're going to have a webinar jointly with somebody from Google Cloud Platform, as well as a customer who is using GCP along with other cloud environments in their multi-cloud network. And so it should be a very interesting topic with some good insight from both Google and our customer. So for that, I think that's the end of our presentation today. I really appreciate you being online, and we look to see you again on another Tech Talk Tuesday.